Before Angela Carter became known as a novelist, before in fact she even published her first novel, Shadow Dance, I was asked by the late Alan Tarling to bring out a pamphlet anthology of poets I thought at the time were interesting. And I came across Angela Carter's poems in university's poetry in the 1960s. I wrote to Angela, who was then studying English at Bristol University, and after a brief correspondence we agreed on the publication of a few of her poems in this very small anthology, but it was an anthology in which I also included some poems by the then Gregory Fellow at Leeds, Peter Redgrove. The history of these poems is very amazing in that a first literary executor, the late Lorna Sage, I did write to her about these, and she sent me a very offhand postcard saying they might get room for them somewhere to acknowledge this, but then she died, and then she was replaced by another executor, Susanna Clapp, the literary critic of the Observer. Whether Ms. Clapp intends to mention this in her, I believe, forthcoming biography, unless that's being done by yet a third person, I don't know, remains to be seen. Anyway, I did publish these poems, and I republished them in Orphans of Albion, Poetry of the British Underground, which I edited with the help of an Arts Council grant a few years ago. So, Angela Carter, my cat in her first spring. With the spring coming, my cat is beginning to bud, sprouting nipples all along her long white breast, this long-legged adolescent she. And in the strange country fitfully lit by the inward turning suns of her yellow eyes, such alien trees shake out moist leaf, and the seed-crusted ferns uncoil with a slow blindness in the rich fruitcake of her dark recesses, where the wrinkled intuitions of her summer roses stir and tremble in their sleep. The spring is coming, and the fat buds bulge. Life-affirming poem about a small, pregnant white cat. She sits, slumps, and she, bulging sack of life, becomes a melting snow cat, haphazardly thrown together by careless children, stuffed full, brimful, full to the teeth with kittens. She yowls, and you fear an incontinent brindled kindle will burst wrong ways out of the pink front door. Inside the swollen sides of the small white cat, who suddenly, unexpectedly finds herself so heavy, she thumps about clattering, snugly buttoned under two pink ranks of nipples. Such an ermine and double-breasted jacket she wears, as used by Shirley Temple. Such an ingenue is she, was she but now betrayed, buttoned up inside her inside conceived. That taut stretched womb, crammed some more than base Indian black hole. Is it in there? Is it like a slit capsicum, clutch of seed hugging the central column of an inexpressible convoluted interior? Is it like that? Regardless, miracle of everyday things, inside her all the little furry commas lie blindly, futurity in futurity, stirring, shifting, waiting to be born. The horse of love. The colour of the round moon is yellow, yellow as lemons, old lemons slice moon, tumbling in dark leaves, sharp, clean and pleasing yellow, and this is the land where the lemon trees grow. The horse of love jumps over the moon, sharing out blue mythopoeic dust from mane, from tail, from fringed anemone eyes. Horse of love, bearing this clasped amorous couple, their faces sharing a profile, merging, the small soft hands of the wind twining and plaiting streamers of hair, and any fool knows forepart, hindquarters, formed of the two lovers, horse of love, huddled under the hide, moths in the crutch, slapstick old horse, not fit for daytime, only for night, for concealing dark, this garish old horse, ragged old horse, patchwork of skin of the mother-in-law that bit you, dishcloths, face-cloths, contraceptive, gas bills, curlers, pimples, body odour, face cream, stained vests, sanitary towels skulking rat-like under beds full of rose petals, but crumbs of last night's fish paste sandwiches and the fecund milk bottles breeding under the sink, etc., etc., etc. Yet see we climb high on this pantomime horse, so squeeze the moon into our tea and spread green cheese, the moon on our bread. Poem for a wedding photograph. Posing for the photographer, they stand together under a green tree in bridal and unfamiliar clothes. Dressed up, they are strangers to one another. They move awkwardly, smile the shy, nervous smiles of shipwrecked voyagers, never met on the crowded liner till now, in the open boat, embarking in embarrassment on a strange voyage together, over a strange sea. Improvise a sail from all her satin, make a mast out of his body. Their hands clutch. Suddenly, we have only each other. Who are we? Under the green tree, the bride gift-wrapped in white. Her veil drifts in the wind, caressing his good black suit. The shutter clicks. They are taken, frozen in this eternal moment, forever. Scissored out of the fabric of their time, an icon of marriage, like Arnolfini and his wife in the cluttered room with a little dog to signify fidelity. In the garden under a tree, the first man and his wife of all and ever, in a silver frame for life. Poem for Robinson Crusoe. Such a vile beach. Dandruff, sand, creaks underfoot, shifting. The dark tide of the unmapped Black Sea called lack of love surges with the motion of vomiting, sicking up its detritus all over the shore. These bones of dead vessels grown all over, obscene fungus, with used contraceptives, slimy mementos of life-affirming impulses which never quite made it, multiple fractured limbs of the chair, the impossible girl curled impregnably in, hospital beds, ocean gone, bleeding rust, crepe bandages unfurl slowly along the water, ectoplasm, heraldically breastplated with dented cans, storm-tossed sailors, blanched by water, loll among sewage. Their eyes have been put out by pearls, mackerels, ate their fingers, genitals, toes, noses, among such leering images of romantic decay. Crusoe judged that the best thing to do was to make a shielding parasol against the tropic sun. Then, cannily snuffing his pockets with pearls, blind to the empty eye-holes, agape like hell's mouths runs, he turns inland. He puts his back to the Black Sea and all its symbolic refuse. He teased sweet milk from the at first unwilling goat, constructed useful pots, dried for raisins the hitherto Dionysiac grape, for a spotted dog in the wilderness is man's best friend, and, final triumph of man over environment, he taught the lacquered flocks of parrots acrobatic tea trays at an evening party where he was the only guest, to remind him of his identity, Robin Crusoe, and hoarsely to mock his self-pity, poor Robin Crusoe, and thus he alienated his self-pity after the manner of Brecht. Shortly the wilderness shook out golden flowers, the Black Sea bobbed with water lilies, and Crusoe sang on Sundays, metrical versions of the signs.